This thing is fundamental. It's a paradigm shift. It's the printing press, it's the steam engine, it's the electronic telegraph. You have the responsibility to look into this deeper. Numbers where I think Bitcoin will go and how massively even like 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.01 Bitcoin will be in the future, and especially one Bitcoin. Like if you have a whole coin, man, you will be a wealthy individual. I'm telling you, supercharging of your life with Bitcoin is immensely powerful if you just have positive cash flow and save that positive cash flow. The amount of things coming your way will be astonishing to you if you're just kind. Where even if you are government against Bitcoin, you cannot really be against Bitcoin mining because this can deload your own infrastructure network.
Welcome back to Bitcoin for Professionals. We have a very special guest today. We have Zaya, a prolific content creator, Bitcoin only podcast host. Robin, hello and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. A pleasure to be on.
It's a pleasure to have you. I've been listening to your show for a while. I have learned a lot. You bring a very wide variety of guests, of people, of celebrity in the Bitcoin space, sometimes even teenagers getting into Bitcoin. So we will talk about that. I want to start first, if you can just tell us a little bit about where you're from and where you grew up.
Yeah, I'm from Austria, so Europe, the small region that wants to have CBDCs and wants to control everyone and has those MiCA rules and all that kind of sorts of things. And we can talk about how it's developing in Europe. And so I'm coming from Austria. Austria has a rich history. Austria is kind of like, it has some golden history. It has some beautiful buildings from the golden era. If you walk through the main city in Vienna and you see the old town, you see the palaces that have been built. Like it's like so beautiful. The Austrian economics in Vienna just represented with the beautiful buildings and unfortunately no longer in the actual economics, because we in Bitcoin, we also talk a lot about Austrian economics. And yeah, there I grew up and had an amazing childhood, very lucky and very privileged childhood, as I describe it. And yeah, early on, as we move forward in the story, I think Bitcoin I came across with like 21 years old around that time. And I think we also talked about that we want to touch on that. I actually was always a very savings personality. And I don't know if you're familiar with the story. I was one day where I was in kindergarten, like the first grade school. I don't know how it's called around the world, but like basically I was like 8 years old, 5 years old, something like that. Like I was not old. I just like kind of getting started with school in Austria. And I always got some pocket money of my mother. And I always ever since I got money, even the pocket money of my lunch money of my mom, I always took that and took a little bit outside. So like since I can remember, I'm always a savings personality. Then with like 17 years old or 18 years old, I started working. Even then, it was not a lot. It was a few €100 per month that I got extra next to school. I always saved some of that and put it into stocks back then. And yeah, so I'm very savings personality, very risk adverse. Like I don't want to lose anything. That's why I don't do debt. I don't do any of those weird things going forward. And yeah, that's kind of my growing up and where I'm coming from.
And how would you explain this kind of savings-oriented attitude? Was it maybe something in the family, or how would you explain that?
It's very hard to pinpoint where it's coming from. There's a lot of psychology things going on, but I do think it is mainly because my dad now I have to say was an entrepreneur back then when I was a kid. So he had his own company, and company is usually in the beginning, especially in the first 5 years, always hard. So you kind of have to put all your financial energy and all your life energy in this company to make it work. And so from him, I just know like he got mad if the shower was running too long. He really tried to save every cent in the house, like letting the pool run in the night only, not in the days, like all those things. And we had a beautiful life. Like Don't get me wrong. We had a house and we had a pool and we had a balcony. Like we lived a good life. Just that, he always looked out for us and he always looked out for like savings, and he was a very savings personality. So if I had to pinpoint it, it probably had to, pinpoint it to my dad, because he was an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs, especially in the early days, they have to save a lot and they really have to see every euro, because all of the sudden, like the similar as Bitcoiners, entrepreneurs have to be like, oh, like if I spend that €5 on that thing, I can also put that €5 in the company. And the same thing with Bitcoiners. They're like, hey, if I spend that, I don't know, €1,000 on that new phone, I can also put that €1,000 into Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin grows over time. So I think from there, I got that savings personality really early on. And yeah, it was amazing, because I always saved in my life. I'm 26 years old and I can literally say ever since I got money in my life, I save some of it and I have a positive cash flow since I'm like 16 years old or something like that. I don't count the lunch money as cash flow, but like since 16, 17 years old that I'm working, I'm always having a positive cash flow to have something on the side. And it has been turning out so good. And I know so many people that have the same age as me, Gen Z. I'm a Gen Z, 26 years old. And so many people in my generation that just don't have any money. They have like €1,000 on their bank account and that's their savings. And if they lose their job or they lose their income, they are screwed the next month. And so having the privilege of having to save since I'm 18 years old, and then also discovering stocks, ETFs, and then complete Bitcoin maxi, going all into Bitcoin, that was a huge thing for me. Because it just like superpowers your life. It gives you optionality. It gives you freedom. That's why I was able to also quit my job last year and say like, hey, let's jump into this Bitcoin thing and make a podcast work. And I started this podcast 1 year ago, 1 year and like 4 months ago, and didn't have any income from it. And now I have enough income to cover my own bills, have something left over to save, and feed more freelancers that work on the post-production of the podcast. So I think the supercharging of your life with Bitcoin is immensely powerful if you just have positive cash flow and save that positive cash flow into Bitcoin. Like it's so super simple. And not a lot of people do that. And those people who do that will be rewarded massively. And we can talk about numbers where I think Bitcoin will go and how massively even like 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.01 Bitcoin will be in the future. And especially one Bitcoin, like if you have a whole coin, man, you will be a wealthy individual. I'm telling you. So, we can talk about all that. And that's kind of like my long-winded answer to your question.
No, I love it. And you've touched on so many things, and maybe the first thing I wanna talk about is the savings attitude. So you mentioned numbers, but it's not important. You were a kid, maybe you had some lunch money. It's more of an attitude than amounts, you know. And then as you get older, obviously you start work, you start making money, so the amounts that you can save become more and more substantial. But it's all in the attitude and in the thinking that, you know, I'm gonna delay whatever gratification I can have today by spending this money into saving it in order to start a podcast, in order to invest in my company, in order to, I don't know, take a trip. I don't know, we'll talk about that for sure. So before you really got into Bitcoin, I know you have a background in IT security and in sales. What did you learn, let's say, from going on that path, and maybe what skills were you able to use with starting your own business, your own podcast?
I learned an extremely valuable lesson in sales, and people have they look at sales really weirdly. They see like, it's like the people that trying to manipulate people and people that kind of like sell you something. It's like always like kind of dodgy. It's always weird. But how I look at sales, it's service. And that's how I got into sales. And then that's how I got taught sales from my people that in the company that I was in the IT security company. It's always trying to solve problems for other people. If you know, okay, like, oh, let's make the Microseed example because I'm involved in Microseed now. Let's say if someone comes to like, oh, how the heck do I back up my 12 or 24 words? as a salesperson goes ahead and says like, oh, okay, you have it on paper, but that's not good enough. You should have it on titanium. How the heck can I solve the problem for you? Okay, maybe I'll make a device like that one and just put it there and have the washer there. And then like you can stamp your seed phrase on like a washer. And if you have that solution, you're like, okay, I'll just solve your problem. And then you are really in service of someone. You're not trying to sell someone. If someone says like, oh, I don't want to put my seed phrase on steel, I just want to have a different solution altogether. I'm like, that's fine. Then you're at the wrong place. Then I sell the wrong stuff. I service the wrong stuff. And I'm not trying to convince him that my way is the best way. I'm just saying, hey, if you have a problem, I'm here to solve it. And that kind of problem solving mindset, that kind of, I'm in service of my customer. I'm in service of the community. I'm of service of someone. This completely changes how you look at sales. Never try to sell someone on something that he doesn't need. Like, nobody will buy it. You have to be really charming and really good to convince something to buy something that he does not need or want. Like, how the heck do people do that? I cannot do that. I learned to be a service personality, and the same way I tagged my Bitcoin podcast. I'm like, okay, how do I have a podcast that serves the community, that serves the people that are listening to the podcast? How can I have something new, something unique, something that the people don't get somewhere else, and they can benefit from that? So I was like, I will do it daily, because there hasn't been a daily Bitcoin interview podcast, so daily thing where they can listen in. They don't have to wait 2 days, 3 days. Like, all those things that I'm doing now is kind of a sales personality, not like, oh, I want to manipulate you to watch my podcast. No, I want to service you if you are interested in a daily Bitcoin podcast with as many different people as possible. So I think that's the main thing I got away from that IT security sales personality thing, where you are in service of someone. And there's one more thing that I have to say. You, as someone that has a service, a product, as podcast, like whatever you have, you're selling something. Even if you're an employee and you do bookkeeping, you're selling something. You're selling your service, your skill to a company to do bookkeeping. Everyone is selling something. It's your time, your service, your product, your like whatever you're doing. Each and every one of you is a salesperson in some sense. So if you're a salesperson, you have to serve almost like a slave to your customer. And if your customer is the king and he says like, oh, like I cannot do that, like I cannot afford that, you have to figure out a solution how he can afford that. Then if he says like, oh, but this does not work in this situation, you have to figure out a solution how it works in his situation. You have to serve him. And the most important rule, the customer is always right. This is the king. You should not speak bad about the king. And many people go ahead and the customer says, oh, that's so bad. And you're like, oh, you don't understand my product. You are wrong. Like, you don't get it. Like, that's the best podcast. You are wrong. No, he will just remember your podcast. Or if you want to sell Bitcoin, if you want to orange pill people, he will just say like, oh, he was really bad to me. He was an asshole to me. And the thing is, if you are bad to people, they will remember you in a very bad way. If you're good to people, and you're always good to people, they will remember in a good way. So people always remember how you treated them, and especially if you treated them badly. And if you treated them good and they treated you bad, they don't remember that. They can be treating you really bad and come back 5 years and say like, oh, hi, Robin, how are you doing? Great to meet you. You're like, hey, you were kind of an asshole to me like 5 years ago. And they're like, oh, really? I don't remember. Like, also, sorry to say that. So people always remember, like, if you're once treating someone badly, they will remember for the rest of their life. They will not remember if they are treating you badly. And having that kind of service attitude, having that kind of like the customer is the king attitude really helps if you want to scale something. I mean, Amazon is probably a big example of how they do it. They put the whole company in service of the customer. They always said the customer support has to be the best thing. Before Amazon, it was not normal to return packages. and just get the money back. Amazon kind of invented that because they said, like, if they buy something and they're not happy with that, they are the king. They should return it. It should be super easy to return it, and they should get the money back immediately. That's king treatment. Amazon won because they treated their customers like kings. And that's how someone should treat their customers. I mean, I don't know what it has to do with Bitcoin now, but just on the professional side of things, this is what I learned from sales. Treat your customer like the king. With coming back to the podcast, I'm trying to have the best possible experience for the viewers and the listeners and get the maximum out of that. That's why I track how good guests perform, so I can re-invite the great guests that people like and don't re-invite the guests that people obviously didn't like, because not everyone performs really good for the people. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, who did the people actually like, who did the people like really enjoy listening to, and who wasn't there, because that's all in service of the customer. I'm not deciding who's on my podcast. The audience decides who's on my podcast.
Giving people what they want in a way. And it's funny you mentioned that. I remember reading somewhere that people will maybe forget what you told them, but they will not forget how you treated them, especially if you treat them bad. So pretty cool. Yeah, we've talked a lot about Bitcoin already. So can you talk us about your Bitcoin journey? You said that you used to be a Bitcoin skeptic, but that changed over the weekend. What exactly happened?
Totally. I just want to throw in one more small thing about sales. I personally think kindness is a superpower. There are so few people that are truly kind and truly in serving of someone, that if you are kind to the world and if you're kind to everyone, not just your loved ones and not just your boss and all, like literally you're kind to every single person, also the waitress, also the cleaning man that comes in, like you're literally kind to every single person you're interacting with. Man, you are a Superman. Like the amount of things coming your way will be astonishing to you if you're just kind. I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's often overlooked when we talk about sales, because there are a lot of arrogant people out there that just like, oh, I have the best thing, or you have to buy it. But back to your question, Bitcoin. I got Bitcoin. As I said, I was in stocks, and I was really big on stocks, and I invested in Tesla. I invested in Apple, Facebook. I invested in Carnival Cruise in the COVID crisis. That was my biggest loss I ever took. I think I lost like 10k euros in that stock. I'm still remembering because it was the biggest loss I ever took. And yeah, I've invested in a lot of different companies before Bitcoin. And then, more and more people kept bothering me about this Bitcoin thing. And I, as you well know, I always said Bitcoin is a scam. Bitcoin is doesn't have a cash flow. What should I do with this Bitcoin thing? And funny enough, more and more people kept asking me about it. And there was like this one guy that really asked me about it. And he wasn't even a Bitcoiner. He was just curious what I think about Bitcoin. And I kind of discovered that I don't have enough arguments against Bitcoin. So I went on this weekend that I often talk about, where on Friday I went in and thought Bitcoin is a scam, and I will prove him right why Bitcoin is a scam. And on the Sunday, I came out kind of saying, oh shit, like maybe Bitcoin is something. Maybe I've overlooked something. I tried to find the mistake in Bitcoin. I couldn't. So I ended up being in Bitcoin. And on Monday, I bought my first Bitcoin. Tuesday, I got even like a hardware wallet. I think I was on Coinbase, and I bought my ledger on Tuesday. I think from Amazon back then, actually, because we talked also about Amazon. So it was it was a very bad setup, but at least I got self-custody from day one onwards, which I think is really, really cool. And I'm proud of that a lot, actually, because I'm a big advocate of self-custody. And yeah, that was basically my orange pilling journey that one weekend. And from there, it took me like another year to go all in, to drop all my stock. And I had a huge position in Tesla. Not when I say huge for a 21-year-old. I think most of the listeners probably have more money than me. So like for my age, from a young age, it was a huge position of mine that I kind of liquidated into Bitcoin. And yeah, then I kind of got into Bitcoin and was all in Bitcoin since I'm 21, 22 years old. And now I'm 26 years old. And it was the best, by far, the best decision in my life that I've ever taken.
On so many levels. And first of all, congrats. And it's only going to get better as well. It's interesting. So you went into this weekend trying to prove someone wrong because you had your own conviction and you had maybe the confidence that you were going to prove them wrong, but also you did your research and you had maybe the humility and the modesty of telling yourself, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what I believed in is not exactly true, because you researched and you were capable of reasoning. That's actually, I think, very rare. So kudos to you, especially maybe at a young age. So you've mentioned it already a few times. You have built an incredible podcast. You post one video every single day. You have been doing it for, I think, a year and a half. You mentioned almost 500 videos. That is a huge body of work. Congrats. What made you launch it in the first place? Why? Okay, you got into Bitcoin. You got all into Bitcoin. Why did you want to launch a podcast? Why did you feel like that was maybe your best way of putting yourself out there?
I keep searching for a good reason, but the honest reason is I was lonely and I wanted to have people talk. Like I wanted to have people talking with me about Bitcoin. Like I have some friends, I have some family members that now also into Bitcoin, but back then this was not even that case that much, where didn't really had people that were on the same conviction level as I was in my real life. So I started first with Twitter and I was like, hey, let's see if I get some online friends that also are into Bitcoin. And I just started the journey. And then I was like, oh yeah, there's some interest, there's some followers coming in, some connections. We hop on some Zoom calls and all those things. And after a year, I kind of went on the Zoom calls with Bitcoiners without recording that. And I was like, hey, like most people still don't really know me. I want to get in touch with the Bitcoin community in a better way. And only tweeting is not a lot of connections. So I was like, I should have some video format. I tried a lot of things out, like news and short videos and TikToks and all those things. I ended up saying like, hey, I already have online chats with Bitcoiners. Why don't I just post them and see if it catches on? And it caught on. People actually enjoyed it. And that's a sad small story of like how my podcast started. I just wanted to have an outlet where I can talk with my like-minded people. And I still do that. It's still the same kind of theory. But as I came from the sales personality, this was kind of selfish reason to do it. I was like, okay, I want to do it for me. But then my service personality kicked in and was like, okay, now people are watching that. How can I make it the best for my audience? So I have the selfish reason to start, and then I kind of put it on like, okay, how can I serve the community with that? How can I make the thing really good also for the community?
So you kind of answer the next question that I had for you. Like, what have you learned most about growing your channel, and how did you manage to grow from 0 to almost above 17,000 subscribers today? Obviously by being very client centric, consumer centric, but how does that translate? Like, what kind of analytics do you look at? How do you build? How do you push out the best content that you are capable of pushing out?
I have a very simple, I always try to make it as simple as possible, and you can get really into the weeds of it and really get deep down in the small details and tactics and strategies that you can do. But on the broad scale of it, podcast has usually a thumbnail or a podcast cover or a title or something. That's the first thing that people will be seeing from you. And it's the first thing that you kind of have to convince people to click on that thing. No matter if it's a Spotify cover, a YouTube thumbnail, a tweet that comes in their timeline, you have to convince people, hey, that's something interesting. I should click on that. And then again, you have to be in the service mindset of like, okay, what do they want to click on? What they are Bitcoin. I want to reach them. Why should they click on this? Like, why the heck should even people care to watch this thing? So this is the first thing you have to do. get them to click on your stuff because they have a lot of distractions. If they are, let's say, on the YouTube homepage, they have at least 5 to 8 or maybe even like 11 other videos on the same timeline and can click on any of those, or can just scroll and get another 12 videos and scroll and get another 12 videos. So this is kind of, you have to make them think of like, oh, that's an interesting video. I want to watch that. Like, I will put my time and energy now into this video. This is a huge thing and it's not appreciated enough. If you get the time of someone spending on your podcast, that's the most valuable thing on earth. That's why I don't ask for people to subscribe. I don't ask for people to like or anything like that. Like, I don't want to bash on anyone that does that. It's a very legit thing. I just choose not to do that because he already gave me the most important, the most valuable thing he has. He gave me his time in the podcast. That's, he already made the most important transaction ever. He transacted with his time and he gave that time to me, and I love that and I appreciate that, and I'm humbled by that action. And then when they clicked on it, you have to do the second thing. You have to produce something interesting. So you have to deliver on the promise that you made with the thumbnail. If you don't deliver on the promise on the thumbnail, people will click out and just find the next video. Clickbait doesn't work. If someone says that's a clickbait video, no, it's not. Because otherwise people wouldn't watch it. If you promise something in the title, you have to get that also in the video. Clickbait no longer works. That was like old days of YouTube. You can clickbait them, but you also have to deliver that. Like, you can only, because YouTube, for example, YouTube, but all the other platforms do the same thing. If YouTube sees that like 20% of people click on that video, but 99% of the video people just leave after like the first minute, YouTube will just not recommend your thumbnail anymore. Like, they will just stop recommending it because YouTube doesn't want people to leave their platform. And if they have a bad video, they might leave. So you have to make them click and you have to make them stick around on your podcast. And if you do those two things, everything else doesn't matter. Like, it's like those two things are important and everything else is just noise around this two signals that I just gave you.
And in building out your audience and your podcast, what kind of early support did you receive from the Bitcoin community? And were you surprised maybe by how generous some Bitcoiners can be with their time or other?
Yeah, and we talked about that right before we started the podcast. Like, I think Jeff Poof surprised me the most in the starting days, where he just came in and said like, oh yeah, of course, I would love to come on your podcast. And I was like, wait, you want to be on my podcast? Like why? I'm just a nobody and you are Jeff Poof. Like, how the heck do you want to be on the podcast? And that's why I also said to you, like, hey, I accept every single podcast invitation that I get, because who am I to say no to podcast invitations if Jeff Poof takes his time out and actually goes on the podcast? So I personally think the Bitcoin community is extremely generous, extremely kind, more kind and more generous than most economies, most communities, most groups of people that you can find in the world. And I've learned that about Bitcoin. And I like that a lot about Bitcoin. Also, like, Michael Saylor gave me very early on a chance where I had like 2,000 subscribers, was still a very small channel. And compared to him, an absolute nobody, like a nobody. I mean, most people are, and I'm still am, against Michael Saylor. And yeah, it's kind of fascinating that he just like said yes to me. And I was like, why did you say, like, why do you want to be on my podcast? Like, man, you can be on any podcast you want. And so this really humbles you when you think about those great people take the time out of their day, of their busy day, and say like, hey, I'll come on your show. Like, I'll be a guest on your show. And I'm like, okay, like why? And so this really humbled me in the beginning, and this was really cool to see, and this was really generous to see. Now so many great people have been on the podcast. It's like I would have to listen to like 100 people of like what great people already have been on the podcast. And I'm really excited about the Bitcoin community, because if we're all that humble and all that kind, I think the future holds great things for us.
Clearly, time is a very important, scarce resource. And yeah, people have been generous with their time. So have you. You put out one episode per day consistently. You have put out almost 500 counting.
Yeah, a little bit over 500 is now.
Nice. Do you have somebody helping you out, or like, is it a one-man show still?
I have, in the meantime, already 3 people actually helping me out with the post-production, with titles and thumbnails. So like the titles and thumbnails no longer are written directly by me.
Okay.
It's just like I give inputs, I give directions. I sometimes here and there correct things, but like 99% of the titles and the thumbnails are actually not about me at all. It was just like about because we, on my podcast, my team and me have exactly one job. We have to present the guest in the best possible light. And that doesn't need to be me. Like, I don't have to do that. And I actually found that other people are better in this job than me, because like, I don't even know that stuff that well. There are people that are way better than me in that. I just love speaking with people and having a conversation. And my general philosophy is I take the money out that I need to live, and all the other money is reinvested in the business. So and the business is just people. I just reinvest in other people that then help to grow the Bitcoin economy. Because if I think it's overall better for Bitcoin if I reinvest the money that I make, that I can, on people that work more into Bitcoin versus me just stacking the Bitcoin. So I could also just like take all the things for me and all the income and just like say, oh, it's all mine, and I don't share it with anyone else and stack way more Bitcoin. But I can also go ahead and say like, oh, I'll just take out the things that I need to live, and all the rest of it I give to other people, and those people then get to work also on Bitcoin. I basically created Bitcoin jobs with that, and then we can all grow that economy and grow that community. So right now I'm in the phase of my life where I don't stack a lot. I just use the things that come inside and give it back to the community. The first time I ever made any money, I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from Coin Vigilant represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what BitBox did. BitBox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a BitBox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I want to tell you about about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need.
Robin, I have to say, like, all of everything you're saying, clearly you're a very self-assured, confident person, but everything you say is full of modesty, extremely humble, very generous. So I just want to say, like, wow. And I love that you're generous enough to and smart enough to use the proceeds of the podcast, and you help other people work in the space. You also make your product even higher quality for your guests. So, like, clearly everybody wins. That's pretty cool. And you've interviewed such a wide range of people, like from Bitcoin legends, like you said, Seyr, Jeff Booth, Larry Lepard, so many others, to even, I think, a 13-year-old who does not and will not open a bank account. How do you approach, like, how do you decide, or how do you approach your future guests, and how do you research them before the podcast?
So once I decided that someone comes on, the research is very limited. I think you have done an amazing job and way better than I do in researching me than I do researching my guests, because you know clearly a lot about me and you have done your homework. Actually,
I just want to interrupt you because I was a fan. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, so I already know a lot of whatever we discussed. But yeah, but I believe in good research as well.
Thank you so much. It's really kind of you. Thank you so much. And I usually do 5 to 10 minutes of research per guest with AI tools to get a general idea where the conversation is headed. And then I just get to know the guest with the audience. So my idea is I don't know a lot about the guest, and I just like ask questions, and I just use AI to figure out what is the general direction of the conversation, where should we take it. And with that general direction, we are usually fine and we find enough topics. I always ask the guest before we start the interview, is there something that I shouldn't miss? Is there something that is really important for you to put in the episode and put in the things? Most people don't say anything to that and say like, oh, like, no, whatever you want to ask. But some say like, oh, like, that's super important. That's currently top of my mind. And then it just go in a conversation, and it just let two minds kind of unfold in a conversation. And it's amazing to have that. In terms of researching how do I pick my guests, because in the beginning, I just put everyone on the show, and I just put like whoever wants to be on the show, let's put him on the show. Now the space actually more scarce. So like the demand of people wanting to be on the show is outgrowing the actual slots per day, because there's only one slot per day, and there's like more people per day that want to be on that same slot. So I have to be more careful with how do I pick new people, and who else that was already on should be on again. And it's like, I don't have a formula. I don't have like, oh, like if X, Y, Z, then you're getting invited. If X, Y, Z, and Z, then you don't get invited. So there's not a magic formula where I'm like, let's put this in the calculator and you're on the show, you're not. It's just basically my gut and like, is he an interesting person? Can we try it out or not? I don't know if I said it ever publicly, but I will just do it now anyways. I had people on the show, and it was not a lot. It was maybe 3 to 4 people that I tried with them, and I spoke with them maybe even beforehand, and then we turned on the camera and we recorded, and then all of a sudden they couldn't really nicely speak. And we had to break up after like 20 minutes because he was never on a podcast before and they were never on a podcast before. After 20 minutes, we said, it's obviously not turning out that well. We will just not publish it. It was still a great conversation. So I had some recordings already that I just never published. I think like maybe 5, maybe 6. I don't know what the number is.
You mean people were uncomfortable being recorded? They
Yeah. So what happens is, and I think actually I never spoke about that publicly. What happens is people reach out to me and like, hey, I really want to be on a show. I've never been on a podcast, but I would love to try it out. Then they come and they have never been on a podcast. And all of a sudden the camera goes on, the recording goes on, the pressure goes on and the stress goes on and they just freeze and cannot speak anymore.
okay.
Or not as good as they otherwise would. So I had some of them, like 5 or 6, but like out of like 500, what is it? I think 30 or 40 episodes that I recorded, like 5 is like almost nothing. So I also try people out, even if they're not known, even if they have never been on a podcast, and see if they would be a good fit, if they are, because I had some very positive examples that I reached out, and I actually had just one today with John Lunchbucket. He was on my show. Like, he reached out to me like, hey, I live in California. I would love to be on a podcast. Can we try it out? And I was like, let's try it out. He's like 60 years old. And we had him on the show and people loved him. Like people loved him so much. I was like, let's re-invite him because people obviously are in love with this guy and connected with this guy. So I just had him on again. And let's see, I think probably people will like the second time around even better because usually the second time around is even better than the first time around. And he's a positive example of someone that was never on any other podcast than mine. And people loved him. So people don't know him, but people still loved him. And those are the positive examples where I'm like, I tried it with someone and he came on and he surprised me completely. He spoke so well. He had an interesting life, interesting story, interesting opinions. And it was just a super fit. And there's like tens of examples that I can probably take, like probably like 30. I probably had like 30, 50 guests that have never been on a podcast the first time on my podcast, and they were really good. But then there are also like those 5, 6 people that are just a negative example. I gladly go through negative examples if I can get one positive one. And it's actually the other way around. I go through one negative one and I get like 10 good ones out of that.
Absolutely. And, maybe public speaking is not for everyone. We're all so different. And it's a bit sad that these people, maybe they have a nice story to tell, but I hope that they'll find perhaps another outlet where they can share whatever they have to share. So, Robin, obviously you have interviewed people who work in different aspects of Bitcoin. I want to ask you, and that I suppose helps you on your learning journey as well, regarding to Bitcoin mining, which I think is perhaps still maybe an area that is not very well understood because it's technical, because, whatever. People easily get the number go up, the Bitcoin store of value, maybe the sovereign money. What have you learned about Bitcoin mining that you can maybe share with our audience? How can you simplify it, let's say?
There's a couple of aspects to Bitcoin mining, and then I'm not the best expert in that, but I've spoken with really good experts on Bitcoin mining, and the things I've learned from that I can share with you. The first thing I would say is it is the infrastructure that is really powerful, and it's the infrastructure that is really the main important aspect of Bitcoin mining, where even if you are government against Bitcoin, you cannot really be against Bitcoin mining because this can deload your own infrastructure network and basically give like a load balancer to your grid. And this is one thing. Another thing that is really interesting, there are pioneer species, and in pioneer species, it's if there is something dropping from the earth, like maybe like a bird flies by and shits on something, and there's some micro mechanism in there, and all of a sudden from that bird there's like a plant coming up, and it's like a mushroom coming up, and there's something growing in there. That's like a pioneer species. If there's like something small happening, and all of a sudden things grow from that. And Bitcoin mining has the same kind of mechanism, where if you plant a Bitcoin miner in an African region where it's very hot, but nobody lives there, and you just plant it there, you put some solar panels on there, and all of a sudden there's Bitcoin miners. Then you need, then you already have electricity at that place, you have internet at that place, and you maybe even have water at that place. Then you need someone that works there. Then you have a guy working there. Then you need a barber shop, because he has to go to the barber. Then you need a supermarket. Then you have people working at the supermarket store. And then there's more people living there, and Bitcoin mining can be kind of a seed in some sense in rural areas where there's no one, and then kind of build the new economy, build a new city because of Bitcoin mining. It's almost like oil. Like if there's almost like there's an oil thing, and all of a sudden oil is kind of the pioneer species, and people are working around there, and all of a sudden living there also. This is how I look in very simple terms on Bitcoin mining, what I personally think it is. Now we can go in like technical details, like how it works and how the miner operates, but like it's boring. It just really works really good. And basically what the mining does for everyone that is kind of new is like solving puzzles. That's how I always describe it. I know if someone is really in the details, they're like, oh, it's not solving puzzles. I try to keep it as easy as possible for people. So this is for me how I look at Bitcoin mining and the advantages of there. And of course, there's this small aspect which is kind of important, is Bitcoin mining secures the network. It's a security of the transactions and the Bitcoin that are going to be mined, even though we are already like very far down the road of Bitcoin being mined. It's a long way around, but like the total amount is no longer that much more. So Bitcoin mining is one of the three very important aspects of securing the network of the Bitcoin network. It's the other one is the nodes, and the users, and the other ones are the holders, the bag holders that actually hold the Bitcoin. And that's kind of nice, the triangle that really holds this decentralization and the Bitcoin mining, the Bitcoin network in general in place. I guess that's the two aspects that I look at Bitcoin mining. The first one is it's securing the network, and the second one it's really giving the pioneer species the seeds to a new economy and to a new venture, to a new like life form.
I love what you said, and I like the analogy because obviously it has happened with oil mining. Like you said, the oil well, the oil drilling companies, the barber shop, the little town build around that. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Robin, you have co-founded, you mentioned it initially, earlier, Microseed. Can you tell us what it is and maybe share your thoughts about Bitcoin custody, especially for newcomers? Obviously, you were very quick into adopting self-custody when you got into Bitcoin. Some people say it's not for me. Some people are curious, how can I secure my Bitcoin? What can you share?
I just wanted to, that I can also show it to you, to grab it.
Yeah.
The reason why I do this in the first place and get involved with a company is because I find it very important. I think we have to get to a place where we have self-custody and where we are in power of our own seeds. And I acknowledge that there are many different solutions. So many different solutions how you can hold your Bitcoin. You can also not hold your Bitcoin. You can keep it on exchange. You can hold it with many different providers. You can have collaborative custody. I think multi-institutional custody. You can have so many different solutions. But if you are one that holds their own keys, and if you are holding your own hardware wallet, you don't want to rely on a hardware wallet to like not break. If you have only a hardware wallet and you have to write those 24 words down, don't write it on paper. This paper can get wet. We have heard so many stories where there's like a paper and the girlfriend just threw out the paper because she thought it's trash. And that happens because paper, if I see paper laying around like that, for example, here's like a paper laying around, like I'm opening like, okay, there's some words on there, let's throw it out. If I don't know about Bitcoin, so don't hold it on paper. And so the first thing is just like get it in self-storage, get it in self-custody, however this looks for you. And if you have it in the self-custody where you have a hardware wallet in that setup, no matter if it's like multi-signature or single signature, then you should definitely go ahead and put that thing on a titanium plate, because then even if fire comes and water comes, it doesn't erode and all those things. And there are many different solutions also in that camp. You don't have to buy Microseed. I just love Microseed, and that's why I got involved in that company, because it's just like one solution. So you buy that one thing and you can literally just put your Microseed, so your seed phrase with those little stamps onto a washer, and you do not have to buy the plate or the capsule every time again. I think it's like 150, 200 euros, like 100 euros for every single seed phrase again and again and again. With that, you buy it once for like 100 and I think $86 it's right now in US dollars, so 150 euros. And you can make as many backups as you want, and you don't have to buy the plates again. And the washers, you can buy them in a hardware store for like 10 cents. If you want to have a nice one with titanium, you maybe have to spend some euros, like 5 euros or something like that, what they're costing. So that's what I like.
So Robin, you stamp the words on the washers?
Yeah, like all the words on one washer. Like that's the big thing.
Okay.
So
Wow.
you have this washer and there's like 2 lines. Maybe I can show it, because this is so small, the camera doesn't pick it even up, but I can show you something where you can easily see it if I'm allowed to share. Am I allowed to share? Let me see.
Yeah, I think it should be
I'm
okay.
allowed to share. Here on the right side, you see an actual coin. And on the left side, you see literally the words being printed on the washer. And that's just like one small washer. That's why we call it Microseed. That's the smallest possible form factor you can put your 24 words.
It is tiny, but there's a lot of space at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's a beautiful thing. You have still a lot of space because, and I don't want to make this a commercial, but if you're interested in, I just tell you about it. There is like those, if you see that, there's like those 60, kind of settings, and you can hear it probably.
Yeah. Nice click.
And those clicks, so you have basically 60 characters plus a second line of another 60 characters. And you can even turn the washer around and have like another 120 characters. So you can put 240 characters onto that washer. You can put a whole tweet on there.
Nice.
And you get like all the numbers. Like I think that's well known for everyone that is with mail backups. For example, that's a C. I don't know if you can see that. That's a C. And then you can just stamp the C on. That's a set, but there are also numbers like 1, 2, 3 to 9. So you can literally put on the anything. You can even put your password on. And that's why I really like that solution, because it's very versatile. If you want to stamp your password onto one, that's possible. And you don't have to, and then that's really big. This is the last backup solution you ever need to buy. Like you buy that one device, it's metal. It's like, I don't think anyone is even able to destroy that thing because it's very heavy. Makes shipping easy because we're just shipping some bunch of metal, so nothing really can be damaged, even if a tractor drives over it. And yeah, that's basically Microseed. And yeah, now I'm shutting up. No more commercial.
I know, it's nice, and I love it. You taught me something new, because obviously I'm aware of stamping your seed words, but on a small washer, you can even use it for your passwords. You can kind of have, it's not expensive to buy a new one.
And think about that. Think about when you want to go with your Bitcoin. So think about, you don't want to have any institution involved, and you just want to have your Bitcoin on one single sig thing, and you want to go over a border. And you either have to remember the 24 words in your head, which is a little dangerous, because like, what if you get hit in the head and you're like, forgot it? With those things, you can mix them in with your normal coins, and there's like a 0% chance that someone at the TSA will look at like that thing and like, what the heck is on there? Like the other words? Because honestly, and this is actually a critique we get sometimes, it's kind of small. Like if you have bad eyesight, you kind of need a magnifier glass, or like just your phone, you like just give it up. And this being small but still readable is a feature. Like it's purposely like that because then
It's not too obvious.
It's not too obvious. If you have like a capsule, and we're actually gonna start selling capsules also, just so that people can also stamp one word on one washer and have them 12 washers if they really want to do that. I personally think the Microseed is better, but if someone wants to do with the same kit that we are selling, we don't do the 1 millimeter thing, we do the 3 millimeter thing. So you have them bigger letters. You can still do that. I personally just like having everything on like a very small thing. And then you can make like 5 out of that and distribute them. You can, I don't know, put them on the back of the fridge. Nobody will find it there. Like I've heard some very creative stories of how people hit this one very small washer.
Nice. I love that. And talking about TSA and talking about travel, you travel a lot to go to Bitcoin conferences. You've recently been to the Bitcoin conference in Abu Dhabi. I think that was your first trip to the Middle East, which is where I am based. A very interesting region. Sometimes can get a little complicated, but a beautiful, beautiful place full of wonderful people. How was that? How was the conference, first of all, and how was your first visit to the Middle East?
Yeah, and I will be back soon actually, because I think it is in December this year again, the Bitcoin MENA in Abu Dhabi. I will be there again. I think I'm already confirmed as a speaker there, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Yeah,
Nice.
I think this is the one that where I'm already a speaker confirmed there. So this will be really fun to be there again. And the Middle East, it's different. Like it's definitely very different to Europe. I have one very small story to tell about the Middle East. In my hotel, we had a small pool in the top of the hotel where I was staying. For me, in Europe, it's very normal to, like, if you're going in from the hotel room to the pool, you just like go with your towel and all those things. And I just went, like, as a European, just there and back with my towel. And then I got a call 5 minutes after I went back to my room, like, oh, please do not do that. Like that's not a good thing to do here. And so this was something very shocking for me, that like people are like, oh, like, don't show your nipples. Also, as a man, don't show them in public. And I was just going with the towel there. Yeah. So that was just like one interesting small thing. And other than that, I was just at a conference. So I did not see a lot of Abu Dhabi. I did not see a lot of Dubai also. I was in Dubai actually before, when I was a kid, like with 12 years old, when my parents visited there. From the roads, very American. So not as European. It's more like American driven, the whole outlay with the car focused travel, and not with the foot traffic focus. So yeah, I kind of like it. People are very nice. I felt very safe there. Like it felt like I just can walk around. I don't have to worry about someone stabbing me or anything like that. So it's a very safe and nice country. I don't like that I can call with WhatsApp video. I just discovered that when I was down there, WhatsApp video calls are not working. WhatsApp is working, but WhatsApp video calls for some reason not. I don't know if the government is banning some traffic there. But I researched, and apparently it's a bigger problem. It was not just me, and so I had to use Telegram video call with my girlfriend to call home. And yeah, that's kind of my small experience with
the Middle East. We should get you to Lebanon next time you're in the Middle East. Very small country, but very diverse. Beach, mountain, lots of nightlife, kind of a more human size, maybe. Dubai being a great place, but maybe full of, buildings and roads. And anyway, I hope you find your way to more often to the Middle East, and maybe to Lebanon sometime. You'll be more than welcome. I want to ask you. Oh, for sure. I wanted to ask you, I have so many questions, but time is running out. So we're going to have you back for sure. I wanted to ask you, what would you say to someone today who refuses to buy Bitcoin at $120,000 because it is too expensive?
I would tell them, first of all, like, everyone always thought that, and everyone kind of learns like that it's not too expensive, but we kind of have to know why that is that way. And I personally think that we just barely scratched the surface of what Bitcoin is. And Bitcoin is for me a foundational invention similar to the printing press, to the steam engine, or to the electronic telegraph. And if we know that, then we also know that this whole thing is a complete paradigm shift. And people always like to hear numbers, so I will give you some numbers. If we assume that in 2050 we will have a kind of a Bitcoin standard and we'll reach the full potential of Bitcoin, or even if we don't put a year on that, even if we just assume, okay, what happens if Bitcoin reaches the full potential? Then obviously Bitcoin will be the money and the asset and the world reserve currency of the world. Then what happens then? Basically, then everything that we have in the world is divided by Bitcoin. Now, how many people are there in the world? Right now, 8 point something billion. But let's say, for the sake of easy numbers, let's say we are at 10 billion people. And I think at like 2040, 2045, we'll probably reach like 10 billion people in the world. Then how many Bitcoin are out there? We say 21 million, but it's like probably more than 15 million with all the lost coins. That's why you have to back them up to a Microseed, to do not get them, not lose them. So with all the lost coins and with Satoshi's coins and all the coins that will be probably lost in the future, we probably have like 15 million coins. If we have 15 million coins, we have 10 billion people. That's 0.0015 Bitcoin that every single person can hold. Like that's the average a person can hold, no more. That's a maximum, the average that every single person can hold. So if we know that, then we can see, okay, what's the average wealth right now? What is kind of right now the people holding in US dollars on the world right now? And that's about 100K. And that's the world, not the USA. That's the world, the average of the world. So the average in the US, a lot higher than that. But in the world, it's like about like 95K. Let's make it easy with numbers. Let's say 100K. If we then say, okay, if Bitcoin reaches that full potential and 0.0015 Bitcoin is 100K US dollars in today's dollars terms, then we know that's the full potential of Bitcoin, which is $67 million per coin, which brings us close to that $100 million metrics, where I personally think slowly we will get there with one Satoshi being $1. And I don't know if you know that in 2009, with $1, you could have bought 10 billion Satoshis. So, and we will get to the point where one Satoshi will be $1. That's kind of my full potential. So we will get to a place where right now, one Bitcoin is 100K or 120K, like above that already. At some point, 0.0015 Bitcoin will be 100K in US dollars. And therefore the price of one Bitcoin will be 67 million US dollars. That's just to give you some rough estimates if the thesis of Bitcoin plays out, where it's going. And this is usually the pitch also that I give people, that, hey, this thing is fundamental. It's a paradigm shift. It's a printing press. It's a steam engine. It's the electronic telegraph. You have the responsibility to look into this deeper, and giving them some numbers so they get some fear of missing out is really nice of a strategy, because then they're like, oh, fuck. What if he's right? What if there's like a 1% chance that this Robin guy is right, that Bitcoin will actually go to 67 million US dollars? Then I basically should put my time into researching and studying Bitcoin to figure out, is that really the case, or is he just full of bullocks? So just encourage people to study it. 100K sounds big. It sounds like 100%, and we reach the top, and like now it's only going down. No, it's not only going down. It's only going up from here. And especially coming back, we can now make a full circle actually to the beginning of the conversation with sales and with being kind as a superpower. Don't tell them, oh, you get the price you deserve and you don't deserve 100K if you don't buy now. Be kind to them. Like if you're an asshole in that situation because he says like, are we not already late with buying Bitcoin? He will not buy Bitcoin for 500K, like a million or something like that. You have to be super kind. You have to be an educator, not a salesperson. You have to be in service of him. And he has to be the king if you want to really sell him on Bitcoin.
I love that. And mentioning all these, wild numbers that are extremely possible, actually. If, like Jeff Booth says, Bitcoin remains decentralized and secure. I want to ask you, how has Bitcoin changed your own spending habits or consumption habits? You did mention that you were a saver, but what is something that you are happy to spend or to sell Bitcoin for?
I have to sell Bitcoin every month because I literally earn Bitcoin. So to cover fiat bills, I have to sell Bitcoin in order to cover them. But I still have more Bitcoin at the end of the month than in the beginning of the month. So it's a weird thing where I have to sell Bitcoin, but I still get more Bitcoin every month. Bitcoin is just my money. So the question is not like, it's not like, okay, what do I spend my Bitcoin on? The question for me, because Bitcoin is just my default money that I use 100%. It's just like, what do I generally spend my money on? The one thing I already mentioned is to get some time back. And there's like, I described it very selfless before with like giving to the community and giving the people a job. But honestly, it's also very selfish at the same time where I say, hey, I want to spend more time doing the thing I love, speaking with people, and the things that I am not as good at other people should do this. So it's like selfish and selfless at the same time. So I want to get my time back. If I'm all day editing and creating titles and thumbnails, even though I don't like that, how in charge of my life am I really at? So I want to be in charge of my life. I want to have the time I was doing. And that's the biggest thing I always spend time on. If there's an option, so if there's a flight where I can either fly for 6 hours somewhere or I can fly for 12 hours somewhere, the price difference is like 400 euros. I gladly spend the 400 euros to get fast to do that option because it gives me time back. Like having 6 hours wasted on an airplane is absolutely absurd. Like I won't do that. Being comfortable in the airplane, I don't care. Like I don't need like a private jet. Like a private jet would only make sense if you make enough money, first of all, and if it really saves time. But if I sit now in economy or like first class, it only makes sense first class for me. And I've never flown first class. If it only makes sense if I can work nicely there. And so far, I've never seen a good Wi-Fi on a plane where I can actually work. So I just sit back in economy, watch some movie that I've downloaded on my iPad and enjoy the ride. It's just wasted time there. Sometimes I also read, sometimes I also like do those things. But if you fly like 12 hours to America, I have a hard time reading all the time. So I need some movies and some other things also. So the point I was trying to make is like, if you can buy time, that's always the best case because time is the most valuable thing. And then second is Bitcoin. Then other things that I like to spend money on is food, going out, having a great time with my girlfriend, having a great time with my family, and overall probably not soon at all, but like at some point in the future, spending money on my kids and spending money on building a family. I personally right now don't have a car because I can drive around in rented cars or just like get into the subway. But if I have a family, I want to have a nice car where they are safe and secure in the car. So like spending it. You really, with Bitcoin, the thing that changes is you reevaluate every single purchase and you're like, does this bring joy in my life? Yes or no? And honestly, for example, Netflix is a controversial topic. Should I buy a Netflix subscription or not? If you work really hard and you want at the end of the day, if you work like 10 hours and then if like you want to just relax for like 30 minutes or like an hour to watch some Netflix, yeah, like go ahead, buy a subscription and like chill out and do some Netflix. You deserve it, man. So, but if you end up just starting watching Netflix on a Friday afternoon and you watch Netflix all the way to Sunday, like you probably should cancel that subscription because it's probably really bad for you. So all things considered, you always have like those positive advantages. You always have like a negative thing to it. And you have to kind of find, okay, what does really bring joy in my life and what does actually make sense to invest in. And if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't bring joy, like just drop it.
As easy as that. And like you said before, Bitcoin gives you this optionality. You can decide, you're able to actually go for whatever brings you joy and leave aside whatever doesn't. Robin, this was such a nice conversation. You are full of, you're very inspirational. You mentioned kindness, giving back, generosity, being open to what life gives you back when you're kind. I have one final question for you, and this is a question that you ask all of your guests at the end of your show. What can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
I love that. I'm trying to get something in because we already talked about sales, being in service. We already talked about kindness. I'm really big on kindness. We already talked about my podcast and media business. So this is also something I would mention, but I already mentioned that. So I'm trying to figure out what else. I think I'm starting to be a good chess player. I think if you're not into chess at all, you definitely can learn a lot from me in chess. If you're good in chess, you probably cannot learn a lot from me in chess. I'm just starting out. So I'm always playing blitz 5-minute rounds where I have 5 minutes and the opponent has 5 minutes on my phone. Like literally I did that before. It's like, I have a confession to you to make, Michael. I came 2 minutes late today in the recording studio because I played chess. So I started a chess game. And it took me longer than I thought. And I was like, oh shit, I'm losing anyways. I'm canceling now. I go on. So I'm actually playing in between podcasts. I try to like play one because today afternoon I have like 4 podcast recordings, 2 of mine and 2 on other shows. And in between I have like a half an hour time. And I usually just go out, quickly grab something as a snack, and then get down and just like play one game of chess because I need to like get my mind off podcasting, get my mind off something to like have some break in between. And it just took way longer. So I was late today, 2 minutes. I'm sorry for that. I had to make this confession. It made sense now.
You are completely forgiven. And hey, Robin, I have so many more questions left to ask you. So we're going to have you back. You are always welcome. Thank you again for your time. Thanks a lot for your time, and keep doing what you do. And yeah, we'll see you around.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored that you want to have this lunatic on again. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.